This is Gemara in Kiddushin, Daf Samoch Zayin, and all the learning once again. We like to dedicate for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael and its student Batzaro Vashivya B'Siyata D'Shemaya. We should only hear good news, and we pick it up from the Mishnah on the bottom of Samoch Vav Amir Beis. Kol Makayim Sheyesh Kiddushin Ve'ein Aveira. Whenever there is Kiddushin, but there is no Aveira, Havlad Hoylech Acher HaZachar. The Vlad goes after the Zachar. Let's just find Rashi over here. Rashi, in the beginning of the Mishnah, really sets the stage and teaches us what is the case. Shakadushin Taif Simba, Vein Aveira bin Nisuin, Shlayasarta Taira Alav. A regular case of Nisuin, there's no problem. Everything is good. What's the story? The story is the Vlad follows the Zachar. And we all know this. This is Kohen Levi Yisrael, which goes after the father. Says the Mishnah, Veizezu. And what is this case? Veizezu. Zu Kohenes Levi of Yisrael Shenasali Kohen Levi Yisrael. Case number one, regular marriage, all is good and dandy. Continues the Mishnah, case number two. What about a case where there's Kiddushin, but unfortunately there's an Aveira? The Vlad follows the one that is Pagam. The Mishnah will explain in a moment, but whichever it is, that's the status of the Vlad. Meaning, says the Mishnah, Veizezuzu Aman L'Koyin Gadol Gusha V'Chalutza L'Koyin Hedye Mamzeres Unisina L'Yisrael Bas Yisrael L'Mamzer Nisin. In all of these cases, the child receives the same blemish status as the Aveira that was done. V'chol mi she'ein alav Kiddushin Aval yesh lo ala cheirim Kiddushin. Anyone that this particular union is not a Kiddushin, but there would be Kiddushin to somewhere else, then Havalat is a Mamzer. Veizezeh, what is this case? This is one that is together with any of the Rayis of the Torah, meaning the person is kosher. It's just the union is forbidden. This girl is a perfectly fine girl, but she's marrying a relative, an arayos. Therefore, the child is a mamzer. Then the Vlad follows the mother. If a man, a Yisrael, is together with either a shivcha or a gaita, then the halacha is, which we know this as well, the child status is like its mother, and that child is not Jewish. Says the Gemara. Let's deal with case number one. Kol makom sheish kedusha v'in aveira amar lei Reb Shimon the Rav Yechon klalahu. Is this a rule? The kol makom sheish kedusha v'in aveira avlad olech acher hazachar. Ask the Gemara, what do you mean? Hare ger. What about the case of a ger to turn over itself? Zayam and Aleph. Shenasa mamzeres. That in such a scenario, the ish kedusha v'ein aveira. And what is the halacha? Havlad hoylech achar hapagum. The vlad, the child, gets the status not of being a kosher, but rather the child gets the status of the pagum, of being the mamzer. Says the Gemara, we already know this from the Tanya, we learned in our Braisa. Ger shenasa mamzeres, havlan mamzer de Rav Yosi. Amar lei. So we respond. Again, this is a kasha that was posed to Rav Shimon the Rav Yechanan. So he responds, and I apologize. I don't know why we have a little bit of a gray box around us. I thought we finally had our video working today. Apologies. Says the Gemara, Amar lei. Mis avres masnisan Rav Yosi. Our Mishnah doesn't follow this price of Rav Yosi. Masnisan Rav Yehudi Damar. What does Rav Yehuda hold? Ger lo yisa mamzeres. A ger is not allowed to marry a mamzeres. So a ger can't marry a mamzeres, and therefore, that is the reason why in our Mishnah it would not be a case of case A of the Mishnah of one that has a kosher kedushin, because according to Rav Yehuda, It's not allowed. A ger is not allowed to marry a mamzeres. V'yesh Kiddushin, v'yesh Aveira, havlad hodich achar hapagam. And therefore there is Kiddushin, but there is an Aveira. And therefore the Vlad will follow the pagam, the mamzeres. Ask the Gemara, okay, Gavaldik, but v'nisnaya. So why doesn't the Mishnah list this case as rule number 2? That a ger and a mamzeres should be in the second part of the Mishnah. Yesh Kiddushin v'yesh Aveira. And therefore the child should be following those rules that it goes after the pagam. Tana kol makaim, the Seifa lasui. So when the Seifa said the general rule of kol makaim, it's coming to include this case. Viba Yisema, says the Gemara, a second answer to our original question. Our first answer was the Mishnah is not Rav Yossi, the Mishnah is Rav Yehuda. Continues the Gemara now with another Teretz. Viba Yisema, you know what I'll answer you? Lo ilam Rav Yossi. Really, we're going within Rav Yossi. Vitana Ezazu Lemeute. It says, and which are the cases that comes to exclude this case of Rav Yossi, that not every case is going to work. V'ezazu v'sulai, is this the only case? V'harecholo shenasa bas Yisrael, a similar scenario. Diyesh Kiddushin ve'ein aveira, and avlado l'chachar hazachar. Says the Gemara, that's not a kasha. Meaning the Vlad holichachar hazachar, and the Vlad is not kosher, the Vlad is a chalal. Kiddushin ve'ein aveira. Says the Gemara, so we have two cases breaking the rule of the first part of the Mishnah. Says the Gemara, haloi kasha. That's not a problem. Why is that not a problem? Kirav Distoib and Rav Yehuda Svirle, because we're going within the sheet of Rav Distoib and Yehuda, who holds that indeed the child does not become a chalal in such a scenario, and therefore does conform to the first part of the Mishnah. Continues the Gemara, 1 second. About 12 lines down, the first one line is Veharei, Samach Zayin Amud Aleph. Veharei, but what about the case of a Yisrael, Shenasa Chalala, which is a scenario of Yesh Kiddushin Ve'ein Aveira, and Havlad Oilech Achar HaZachar. And in such a scenario, the Vlad goes after the Zachar. Why didn't the Mishnah list this case in the first part of the Mishnah? Everything is kosher. Says the Gemara, Tana kol makam dereisha la'asuye. V'nisnaya behed. Why do we say this explicitly? Misham d'lo masni lei. The reason being is because this is not a Mishnah. Hey, I mean, lo nasni lei. There's no easy way to write this in a very simple manner. What does that mean? Nisti kanis levi Yisrael is v'chalala. Shenasli kain levi Yisrael v'chalala. Kain michazia. It's not true. A chalal is not allowed to marry a kain, a chalala. Vayika de Rav Arachana, da Amar Rav Arachana, Amar Rav Yechanan. So, excuse me, this is the next kasha. So, answers the Gemara, we couldn't find an easy way to listen in the Mishnah, because the Mishnah wanted to write in Lashon Getzara, in a nice and short manner, and therefore, the Mishnah just listed Kain Levi Yisrael to Kain Levi Yisrael, and didn't include this case of a chalala. Asks the Gemara the next kasha. What about the case of the Rav Arachana, the Rav Arachana, Amar Rav Yechanan, Mitzri Sheni, a second generation Mitzri Shenatza Mitzris Rishayna, that marries a first generation Mitzris. This is the way that what happens. B'na Shlishi Havai. What is the status of the child? The child is a Shlishi. Meaning, what does it mean the child is a Shlishi? The child is allowed to marry a regular Yisrael. So why in this case was this not listed in the first case? Again, Tana Kol Makam Dereisha La'asuye. Kol Makam Dereisha comes to include this case. Well, Rav Dimi Da'amar Sheni Have. According to Rav Dimi, that disagrees, and he says when a Sheni marries a Rishain, the kid is not a Shlishi, but the kid is a Sheni and still Asr to Klal Yisrael. Tana Izazu Lemu'ute. So again, as you could already get the feeling, the Gemara basically has two defenses in its arsenal. Either we could always answer that the call in the ratio is coming to include such a case, or the Izazu is coming to exclude. It says the Gemara, again, still asking on the first case of the Mishnah, they taught us, that when it comes to the Goyim, how do we determine their status It goes after the Zachar. Niskairu, Holach Acher HaPagum, Shebishneim. But if they convert, then we go after the Pagum. So what do we see? We see that this doesn't necessarily fit with the first rule in our Mishnah. We're talking about a case from a ger. Surely we're going to get to this on Amud Beis. A ger from an Amoini who married a Mitzri, which is such a case that the Kiddushin is Chal and there's no Aveira. But yet, what is the halacha? The halacha is the child is not kosher. So this seemingly breaks the first rule in the Mishnah. Says the Gemara, Tanei Zezul and Mute. Ask the Gemara, hi, what is going on over here? Going back to the top of the Amid, that Rav Yossi said that a ger is allowed to marry a mamzeres, and this is a case of Kiddushin without an Aveira. Says the Gemara, this really wraps up from the top of the Amid. If we were going with Rabbi Yehuda, he kol makam dereisha lasu yisal shenat zachalal udrav arachana is azulimute drav arachana is azulimute drav dimhi v'ravin. Everything is good. Kol makam de seifa and the kol makam da seifa is lasuya. As we turn over to Samuel Zayin Amid Beis, lasuya the case of Gershon Asmam Zeres. Ella, but that's only if we go with Rabbi Yehuda, but articulates the Gemara on the top of Samuel Zayin Amid Beis. Ella Yamid Rabbi Yossi on the second line. If you're going to tell me that we're going within the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, Kol Makam Dereisha Kedamaran, that's fine. But Eizezu Kedamaran, Ella Kol Makam Deseifa. We're doing some checks and balances over here. Some, trying to make everything sure everything crosses off. What do we do? Kol Makam Deseifa according to Rabbi Yossi Lasuyei Mai. Says the Gemara back. Tamech to Rabbi Yehuda Eizezu Deseifa Lamali. Again, we have a kol makam in the reisha and in the seifa, eizazu in the reisha and in the seifa. So we have 4 different cases we have to find. So we have 3 according to Rav Yehuda, we have 2 according to Rav Yossi. We started asking Rav Yossi. The Gemara throws right back. Says, what are you going to do according to Rav Yehuda? Ella, 5 lines down, Samach Zayin Beis, Aidi Tana reisha eizazu, Tani seifa eizazu. So now you're going to answer me. You're going to answer me that every word in the Mishnah is not precise. And you know why it said Eizazu? It said Eizazu just in the Seifa, in the second case, just because it said in the Reisha. But in reality, it's not teaching us something. But once we come on such a teretz, everyone knows what's coming now. And that wraps up the Eizazu, the Kol Makayim, in the Reisha and in the Seifa. Continues the Gemara 8 lines down. First word line is Tana Gufa. Let's go and delve a little bit deeper into Ravin, that which we saw before. Kiyasa Ravin Amar Rav Yechon. Ba'ubais, we just asked the second one on the bottom of Amar Aleph. Holach Acher HaZachar. By the Umais, we go after HaZachar. Niskairu Holach Acher HaPagim Shebishneim. Asks the Gemara, what is this case of Ravin? My be'uma is al chacher hazachar. What does that mean? Kidditanya, as we learned in a brayso. Minayin lecha min ha'umais. How do we know for one of the goyim sheba al akinanis? Now, everyone was wondering, who cares? In the world of the goyim, why are we bothering with what type of goyim? They're aser. Because now we know that there's different levels of Yisurim within the Goyim. So if we have one of the Umay Shaval Kananis, V'haylid Bein, and they give birth to a child, how do you know? Shatarashai Likanoisai Be'aved. How do you know that you're allowed to purchase that child as an Aved? Talmud Loimar says the Torah, Behem, tiknu from them you shall purchase. Yachal, you think Av Eved Shabal Shivcha. Mina Umais, if an Eved is together with a Shivcha of one of the Goyish nations. V'haylid ben Shadarash Lekanaisav Eved, you could purchase the child as an Eved. Talmud Loimar, Sharlidu Ba'artzachem Mina Noiladim Ba'artzachem V'loy Mina Garim Ba'artzachem. So that's what we're going to learn out from the Pasuk. It's a halacha regarding when you could purchase such a offspring as an Eved. Says the Gemara, Niskairu, 3 lines from the wide lines. If this guy is niskayer, we go with the pagam of both of them. B'mai, asks the Gemara. As we explained the bottom of Aleph, my pagamika. There's no problem. Why is there no problem? The famous drasha, Amayni v'lay Amaynis, and Amaynis is going to be kosher. Elaba Amayni shenasa mitzris v'izachar have haishad yabasrei didei v'nekeva have shad yabasrei dida. So we have Amayni shenasa mitzris. They're both a problem. So now the chiddush is, if it's a zachar, it goes by him, the Amayni. If it's an nekeva, it goes by her, that the child will have the status of a mitzris. And we continue on the second white line, quoting the Mishnah, Kol she'ein alav Kiddushin, any case where there is no Kiddushin with this man, but there are Kiddushin with other men, then we said the resulting child is a mamzer. Asks the Gemara, Minani Mili, from where do we know this din? Again, that the person is ostensibly mutter, does not to this person. So the child is a mamzer. Amar Rav Chibar, Rav Rav Yochanan, Matiba, and some said Mishum de Rav Yanai, Rav Acha, Brei de Rava, Matiba, Mishum de Rav Yisek Lili. Amar Kra, says the pasuk, V'yatzim Beis V'alchavais L'Shacher. Says the pasuk that what happens by Gerush and he leaves this house and goes to another house. So from here we could learn la'cherim v'lo likroivim, that she's allowed to become a wife to someone who's not related to the original husband, but not someone to whom she is forbidden to be together with. In such a scenario, the Kiddushin will not take effect. How do you know how to darshan the pasuk of la'cherim v'lo likroivim? Maybe it means lo leben. Says Gemara, Ben behedei kisiv bu. Ben is explicit entirely. Yikach es eishes aviv. Acher lo yikach es eishes aviv. Acher lamali. What does that have to say to someone else? Shmami no lacherim lo likrevim. Says Gemara, 1 second. Ve'imei aidi leben. Holachatchila hadi yavid. Lechatchila says Gemara, no me'achais isha nafka. That omachais isha bekaris lo tikdash chayvim mises bezdin lo kolshkein. If you can't marry achais isha, the sister of your wife, and it's the punishment is kares, certainly you cannot marry chayvim mises bezdin. Ask the Gemara, which of course will be the relatives. Ve'im aidi b'achais isha. Maybe they're both psik b'achais isha. Lechatchila di'even. So it says it's true, we could indeed darsh in such a way. Ashkechan achais isha. Shar arayis minalon. Says Yalfino me'achais isha. Ma'achais isha miuchadeshi erva. We had such a Josh in Yevamis. Achais isha is unique. That the sister, your wife's sister, is your erva. Vechayav and also doinai kares. And the punishment for being together b'mizid is kares. Valshigosay chatos, and it was a mistake. It's chatos. V'loi tafsi ba kiddushin, and there's no marriage. Av kol shehi erva, in the case of an erva. Vechayav and also doinai kares. Valshigosay chatos lo tafsi ba kiddushin. Says the Gemara, and these are all concepts that we've learned in Yevamis. I understand that we can learn at all the cases. What do you do about Eishes Ish and Eishes Ach? Malachos Ishes Kein Ein Laheter B'Makom Mitzvah. Toimer B'Eishes Ach, the wife of your brother, Shish Laheter B'Makom Mitzvah. Of course, Yiba matters up Eishes Ach. Eishes Ish, na Mikal Mifrach. That what? Malachos Kein Ein Laheter B'Chaye Oisrin. Timer basis is Sheish Laheter B'Chaye Oisrin. El Omar Rav Yoina, 3 lines in the bottom. V'Tema Rav Huna B'Rei Rav Yeshua. Omar Krav from the pasuk Kol Asher Yasem Mikol Te'eva Sahila V'Nichrasa. And from here, what do we learn now? It says the Gemara Hokshu Kol Arayas Kulan Lachais Isha. And from there we learn out Ma Lachais Isha Loi Tafsi Ba Kiddushin. Kol Arayas Kulan Loi Tafsi Ba Kiddushin. That's how we know that there will be no Kiddushin by achais isha. Let's just go a job further, even though we don't have the Gemara in front of us. Ihachi asks the Gemara, then what? Afilu nida nami should be the same thing by a nida. We're on the top of Samachas Amud Aleph. Alama Amar Abaye. Why did Abaye teach? Hakol maidim bal nida bal aseita she'ein avlan mamzer. It should be the same thing. The child should be a mamzer. Amar Chizkiah, Amar Kravti, Nidasa Allah, Afilu B'Shas Nidasa Teiba Havaya. It means it's going to be like her, special exeris, like also with regard to Nida, which doesn't apply to other cases of kares. Other cases of kares we could indeed learn out from Achais Isha, whereas Nida will be different because of the pasuk of Biyasai Tiei Nidasa Allah. We'll pick up from here on Samachas Alf for the next year. B'siyata Dishmaya.